Welcome back. I am Serena, if you didn't know, and I'm here to cover media, politics, and more. And in this New Year's Eve or New Year's, depending on where you are, um, stream, I'm going to be looking at a story, an announcement recently. This is UK launches voluntary paid military gap year scheme for under 25. So we're going to look at that and we'll do some sort of chit chat as well. So I hope you're well. I have found recently I have been able to publish here a bit more frequently, and I think it's paying off. So I really do appreciate anyone who is tuning in, who's subscribing, who's jumping in the comment section. It really helps me, it helps the channel, and it's just enjoyable to be in the comment section having chats with people who have interesting things to say and ask. So yeah, let's keep it up. So let's go to this story then. I hope you're well. I wonder what your thoughts are about this, whether you're fond of this idea. I mean, it's not conscription, but it's encouragement. Let's just put it that way. It's encouragement. So over here we have UK launches voluntary paid military gap year scheme for under 25s in terms of the bias comparison, the political bias comparison. This is in the centre, and it's pretty high in factuality. So I will read through the summary and then I'll go to gov.uk press release about this, which will be directly from the horse's mouth. Okay, so in March 2026, the Ministry of Defence will open a voluntary paid military gap year for under 25s, starting with around 150 recruits and aiming to expand to more than 1,000 per year. Okay, just jump in the comments. The government announced earlier this year the scheme to attract teenagers amid rising concerns about Russia and warnings from Air Chief Marshal Sir Richard Knighton following the Strategic Defence Review's recruitment recommendations. The army scheme would begin with 3 months of basic training, with pay expected to match about £26,000. Participants will not be deployed on active operations. So, I mean, £26,000 for somebody who is struggling to get a job, who may not have much experience, who has a lot of student debt. £26,000 to go on this sort of internship and you won't sort of be deployed on active operations is probably going to have quite the pull. Officials hope the scheme will bring a broader range of people into the forces, teaching transferable skills for civilian careers with no obligation to join, while insiders claim it could ultimately pay for itself. The scheme is modelled on Australia's ADF gap year, which enlisted 664 people in 2023, with a little more than half staying on. But critics say that a 150 place pilot is small and funding concerns remain. Let's go to the gov.uk site, straight to the horse's mouth. So, armed forces to launch gap year scheme for young people to bolster skills and leadership. Armed forces launch gap year in 2026, under 25s. Britain's young people will be given new opportunities to experience military service through a Gap Year Foundation scheme set to launch in 2026. Welcome if you're just joining the stream. Cool to have you here. Let me just quickly check. I've got everything set up here. Please jump in the comments. Feel free. So a first wave of around 150 participants will open for recruitment from early 2026, offering young people a year of paid experience and training in the armed forces across the Army, Royal Navy, and Royal Air Force. Ministers have an ambition to eventually grow the scheme to over 1,000 young people subject to interest. The scheme, which will launch in March, will offer young people bespoke training courses. See, it is, I mean, it's offering quite a lot to somebody who's young, who isn't able to um, get a job, who has debt, 26,000 a year. I mean, they've made it very appealing. So the scheme will launch in March, offer young people bespoke training courses aimed at giving them the skills and attributes to set them up for success in either military or civilian life. So, it will be sort of sold with this sort of idea of it sort of having transferable skills. Um, Okay, so the scheme will equip those who may be unsure on their career direction with problem solving, teamwork and leadership skills. Teamwork and leadership skills, sorry, I lost my place completely, as well as offering unique opportunities, including undergoing basic training or experiencing life at sea. It forms part of the government's drive toward a whole of society approach to defence. A key theme of this year's Strategic Defence Review, reconnecting the public with those who serve, strengthening awareness of the role the armed forces play, and giving the next generation the skills and experience to unlock their potential. The scheme is informed by the success of the Australian Defence Forces ADF Gap Year scheme, which was cited in the UK government's Strategic Defence Review as an exciting model from which to learn, and has been running for over a decade. The announcement follows a rallying cry from the head of the armed forces, Sir Richard Knighton, who has set out the need for a whole nation response to an increasingly volatile and uncertain world. Defence Secretary John Healey, MP, said, "This is a new era for defence, and that means opening up new opportunities for young people to experience and learn from our armed forces. This gap year scheme will give Britain's young people a taste of the incredible skills and training on offer across the Army, Royal Navy, and RAF. It's part of our determination to reconnect society with our forces and drive a whole of society approach to our nation's defence. As families come together at this time of year and young people think about their futures, I want the outstanding opportunities on offer in our armed forces to be part of that conversation in homes across the UK." The Minister for Veterans and People, Louise Stander-Jones, MP, said, "As a veteran, I know how invaluable the skills and experience gained by serving in the armed forces are, not only in a military career but in a civilian life. This scheme will provide a fantastic opportunity for school leavers and young adults to develop their potential, learn new skills, and contribute to our nation's security, all while building resilience, teamwork, and leadership skills that will serve them for life. As well as broad leadership skills, the Armed Forces Foundation scheme will be designed to deliver transferable skills to careers outside of the armed forces, which will bolster national resilience. For example, working alongside supply chain specialists in the Army or engineers on Royal Navy ships will provide the skills needed for success in logistics and engineering roles. Initially operating as a pilot, the scheme is expected to scale and increase capacity, offering the experience of life in the armed forces without a commitment beyond the course. Without a commitment beyond the course. Thoughts on a postcard? Your thoughts on a postcard? I welcome your thoughts on that. I was recently having some conversations about joining the armed forces, and I surprised myself. I was being quite critical of it. So I am uh, accepting that you can gain really valuable experience, for instance, leadership, team building, uh, from such an internship or working within these kinds of schemes. And of course, there's transferable skills for civilian life, for other sort of careers, but it's still feeding a certain industry. So I value your input there. And I'll look forward to the comments on that one. So let's have a quick look at what is going on with the latest sort of top Russia Ukraine war news. So over here we have Russian drone attack on Ukraine's Odessa injuries 6. Um, injures 6. Russia will win in Ukraine, Putin says in New Year address. Putin orders expansion of buffer zone in Ukraine. So let's just click on this story over here. I'm using Ground News. I'm an affiliate. You can find out more about them. I have a link in my description. So this was updated 3 hours ago. Russia will win in Ukraine, Putin says in New Year address. On Wednesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin declared confidence that Russia will win in Ukraine, urging citizens to support troops and addressing fighters on the front lines. Russia's defense ministry published footage showing a downed drone from an alleged Ukrainian attack on Vladimir Putin's residence in Novgorod, while Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov, said Putin ordered buffer zone expansion next year. Unlike the 2022 New Year address, this year's New Year's address was noticeably muted, returning to a pre-war format and airing first in the Far East Kamchatka Peninsula across 11 time zones. Moscow said it will take a harder line in US brokered peace negotiations after labeling the alleged attack a terrorist act, while Kaja Kallas, again, pronunciation mistakes, European Union's top diplomat, accused Russia of trying to derail talks, and Western allies expressed skepticism. As the war nears its fourth year, the toll is evident in Ukrainian civilians. Uh, with 6 injured in Odessa, including children, and damage to DTEC power facilities amid Europe's spillover fears. So if I have a quick scroll, so let's look for something that's high factuality, because remember, Ground News shows you with this clear labeling what's high, what's medium, what's low, and it will say whether it leans left or right. So we're looking for high factuality. This is very high factuality, and its center. This is InsideNova.com. Let's see if it's in English. Unavailable due to legal reasons. We recognize you are attempting to access this website from country belonging to the European Economic Area. Therefore cannot be granted access at this time. Well, that's a shame. If I continue to scroll down to find something that's high factuality and center. It's proving difficult. There's a few that are center sort of on the spectrum, but they have mixed factuality, which doesn't help us. Oh, here you go. High factuality. This is South China Morning Post. Hong Kong 8 hours ago. Don't need to translate it. Awesome. Okay, so this is my news. Okay. Russia will win in Ukraine, says Putin in New Year address. A president's speech called on Russians to support our heroes and came on the 26th anniversary of him coming to power. So this was published 10:37 p.m., 31st December. So very recent. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that his country believed it would win in Ukraine, where Moscow has led an almost 4-year offensive. Putin's traditional New Year's Eve speech was first aired in the far eastern Kamchatka Peninsula, the first Russian region to enter 2026. He called on Russians to support our heroes fighting in Ukraine, saying, "We believe in you and our victory." He wished a happy new year to fighters and commanders in Ukraine and said, "Millions of people across Russia, trust me, are thinking of you." Meanwhile, Russian drones blasted apartment buildings and the power grid in the southern Ukraine city of Odessa in an overnight attack that injured 6 people, including a toddler and 2 other children, officials said on Wednesday. The conflict in Ukraine has had a huge human cost, with military deaths on both sides believed to be in the tens or even hundreds of thousands. December 31st marks the 26th anniversary of Putin coming to power. 26th anniversary. He became president of Russia on New Year's Eve 1999 when Boris Yeltsin stepped down. The televised New Year's Eve speech, which continued the tradition started by Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev, is a holiday staple in Russia and watched in millions of households. It is aired on state TV just before midnight in each of Russia's 11 time zones. In Russia's latest attack on Ukraine, 4 apartment buildings were damaged, according to regional military administration. Power company DTEK said 2 of its energy facilities suffered significant damage. The company said that 10 substations that distribute electricity in the Odessa region were damaged in December alone. Russia has this year escalated its long-range attacks on urban areas of Ukraine in recent months as Russia's invasion of its neighbor approaches its 4-year milestone in February. It has also intensified its targeting of energy infrastructure, seeking to deny Ukrainians heat and running water in the bitter winter months. From January to November this year, more than 2,300 Ukrainian civilians were killed and more than 11,000 were injured, the United Nations said this month. That was 26% higher than in the same period in 2024 and 70% higher than in 2023, it said. Russia's sustained drone and missile attacks have taken place against a backdrop of renewed diplomatic efforts to stop the fighting. US President Donald Trump hosted Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at his Florida resort on Sunday, announced that a settlement is closer than ever before. A Florida resort, huh? The Ukrainian leader is due to hold talks next week with the heads of European governments supporting his efforts to secure acceptable terms. The ongoing attacks, meantime, are inflaming tensions. The overnight Odessa strikes are further evidence of the enemy's terror tactics, which deliberately target civilian infrastructure, said Kipper Kuiper, the regional head. Moscow has alleged that Ukraine attempted to attack Russian President Vladimir Putin's residence in northwestern Russia with 91 long-range drones late on Sunday and early Monday. Ukrainian officials deny the claim and say it is a ruse to derail progress in the peace negotiations. Major General Alexander Romanenkov of the Russian Air Force claimed on Wednesday that the drones took off from Ukraine's Sumy and Chernihiv regions. At a briefing where no questions were allowed, he presented a map showing the drone flight routes before they were downed by Russian air defenses over the Bryansk, Tver, Smolensk, and Novgorod regions. It was not possible to independently verify the reports. Ukraine's Air Force said on Wednesday that Russia fired 127 drones at the country during the night, with 101 of them intercepted by air defenses. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry said that 86 Ukrainian drones were shot down overnight over Russian regions. The Black Sea and the alleged annexed Crimea Peninsula. The Ukrainian attack started a fire at an oil refinery in Russia's southern Krasnodar region, but it was quickly put out, local authorities said. So there we have it. We've got a couple of stories there. We've got the recent, the recent announcement from the UK government launching an internship for young adults to join the armed forces. And then there was a bit of an update on matters with Russia and Ukraine, a very brief one, mind you. So I welcome you to jump in the comments. Let me know what you're doing for your New Year's. I prefer to I prefer to work during these periods, these holiday periods. I find them to be highly distracting, and I prefer to just avoid all the festivities altogether. If you, like me, are the same, then I'd love to hear from you in the comments. But yes, I am always quite relieved when these periods are sort of done, only because it just feels like there's a great deal of distraction. And if you are um, perhaps in business or you're studying something, and you really prefer to keep your focus and not get dragged into a lot of distraction and a lot of frivolity, then these sort of seasons, these periods of time can be uh, a little bit irritating. I do find them irritating. So I wonder if I know I'm not alone. I know there are others like me. Hence my stream, nearly 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve. I have published today, yesterday, the day before, additional content on Serena's Playbook, and it's where you can go if you want to level up your strategic thinking. You don't have to be a creator, an entrepreneur, you might even be a student. So you can always check that out. And sometimes I'll do like a collaborative post over here and with that channel, because there's sort of shared topics and shared subject matters. So you can always check that out. But I do appreciate your time here and your attention, and whatever you're doing, if you are joining in the festivities, and stay warm wherever you are. If you observe this as being the new year, then I suppose Happy New Year. But if you're waiting for spring like me, and you go according to the seasons, then still got a cold month ahead, especially in the UK, of weather, and then things will begin to sort of get a little bit milder. So I'm not going to give you a weather report. That was just my little opinion on the new year. But I hope you're well. Thanks for your time and attention as always, and catch me in the next one.